Hi, I'm Michael Torø. I'm a Danish landscape architect, and this is my garden, Scars of Conflict. When reflecting on this year's topic, borders, I thought it was quite interesting how borders are often these very defined lines on a map, and during times of conflict they become these quite fluid lines crossing the landscape and kind of altering them along the way. And I thought it was quite interesting how you can kind of transform this into a garden. So I kind of looked into past conflict, and I found some very interesting landscapes from the First World War, and kind of like how they regrow over time and how nature kind of reclaimed the land. And I thought it was a quite beautiful symbol of how we as a society can also regrow and become stronger and more characteristic. So when I was working on the garden, the idea was to have like this flat terrain, and then having the impact areas where the shells from the artillery would hit and kind of like blow up the soil, so you kind of get like this hilly landscape with these ponds weaving in through it. And then I was thinking it would be interesting to have like this meadow that is kind of like continuous, so you kind of have like this feeling of the landscape being one solid surface, and then having it with a white flowering meadow, because it's kind of symbolizing hope and peace and prosperity and hope for the future, which is also, I think, was very much in line with the concept of the garden itself. The trees is pioneering trees, which is the first trees to establish themselves, so also enhancing this idea of a regrowing area or regrowing nature. When I arrived here, most of the work was already done. The terrain was made, the ponds was established, and the grass was already grown. So the first thing we did was kind of take the perennials and kind of placing them around the garden. And we also went out to look for some smaller trees to enhance kind of like this wilderness feeling. And it was quite nice, and kind of how this intuitive working with kind of like going around placing the trees and seeing, okay, how does it fit? How can we guide people through the garden by these planting elements. So it's very nice experience. For the visitors, I think there's two ways of exploring the garden. The first one is more playful, so you can just enter the garden, walk around, kind of play with the hills, run around. And the second one is the more, if you go into the concept, you read the information and you kind of reflect upon like how the main ideas, and hopefully you can take something back with you, that even the darkest time we can kind of regrow a society and come on the other side.